Thank you all. I'm going to do my part to bring you back on schedule, and when we get done here, I'm going to hang out a little bit and take questions then, if that would help sort of keep things on track. First of all, I'm just very glad to be with you today. It's an honor. Sometimes in this line of work, you walk into a room and you see friendly faces that you don't recognize, or you see familiar faces that maybe aren't so friendly, and this is one of those groups after many years working for Senator Cole, where I can say I walk into a room and see both familiar and friendly faces all in the same spot. So for that, I'm grateful. Darcy Vetter would have been here today. I think that was the plan some months ago. Darcy, I think, is right now on an airplane on our way back from Singapore, negotiating TPP, which is a huge undertaking, and one that I think we've begun to make some progress on in a more meaningful way in the last few weeks. Fun fact about Darcy, as you all know, she's been nominated by the President to be the Ambassador for Agricultural Trade Negotiations. A more fun fact about Darcy is that she is the daughter of what I believe is one of Nebraska's first certified organic farmers. And so in that role, she has been so huge to our trade agenda at USDA, and it is a blessing to American agriculture writ large, as well as to organic agriculture, that Darcy will be assuming these new responsibilities. And so we hope that she has timely Senate confirmation. She's had her hearing. It's now a matter of voting her out of Finance Committee and getting her on the Senate floor, or packaging her with a group and just moving it. So Marnie knows all about how that works. So just very broadly speaking, agriculture has had 5 record years of agricultural exports. I think our last level was $140.9 billion, and we recognize that organic production is an important and growing part of that. I think we've grown 4 to 5%, and I know that organics are growing well more than that. We slice numbers a lot of different ways at FAS. That's kind of part and parcel of what we do. We know that organics, of the selected organic product lines that we can trace, it's grown 21% since 2012. When I say the lines that we can trace, we have tariff lines that actually break out organics, which we have 27 export codes. A lot of those are for fresh fruits and vegetables. We know there's a lot of trade in processed foods, too, that may not necessarily be captured in those numbers, so I always like to caveat that. Bottom line is, you're growing an important part of our agricultural trade picture, and we appreciate that. I was just in China last week talking about a whole bunch of things as part of a trade mission, and one of the things that is very clear to me, particularly in markets like China that absorb a lot of our agricultural production, is the U.S. brand for quality is what helps us out a lot there. There are a lot of people in China that want U.S. Consumer goods, and we visited a facility that is sort of the equivalent of their Amazon or eBay. It's owned by the Alibaba companies. They just had an IPO in New York. Jack Ma is their chairman, and they're doing direct-to-consumer sales. And 1 month, not long ago, they sold 52 container loads of milk, much of it from America. And because people value the quantity or value the quality of the products that we sell, and you guys are in the center of that. So thank you very much. Let's see, 2013, we had increases in Canada, Mexico, Australia, and the EU. Canada remains by far our largest organic market, with exports of selected products increasing 14% in 2013 to $255 million. We think there's a lot more growth opportunity, as I was just describing, in Asia and South American markets. And to get to this issue of, how do we measure that, we do continue to work with the ITC to add to the number of trade codes so that we can keep track of what's going on and where we have more opportunity. Imports are also a part of the picture that we keep track of at FAS. Imports were about $1.4 billion in 2013. We had 40 selected import codes, 17 of which we added in 2013. It's a little difficult for us to make an apples-to-apples comparison on imports, just because we added those 17 import codes the last go-around. But it's important for us to keep at that, and we coordinate with industry and OTA a lot when it comes to things like the import codes and code determination. And as long as I'm talking about coordinating with industry, let me just put a plug in. I know Laura is part of our APAC, and we have organic folks on our ATACs. These are our advisory committees that help guide us on trade negotiations. And let me just say that they are hugely important, and we appreciate your input. Secretary Vilsack, who speaks so eloquently on a whole range of things, that I'm glad I didn't have to follow him. He and Ambassador Froman are the ones who make those appointments, and I just want to say that it's hugely valuable to us to have that input. Equivalence arrangements, I don't want to jump into Ann Alonzo's lane here too much. I try to swim in my lane, but I know that she is working incredibly hard on a range of them, and that you heard yesterday from Senator Stabenow about Farm Bill. One of the things that I think is important from an FAS perspective in Farm Bill, in the technical assistance to specialty crops part of the bill, we have authority to now deal with both SPS and TBT issues in specialty crops, and that's important to us. Of course, everybody here is probably familiar with Korea. That's a challenging environment, one that I know a lot of brain power in both AMS and FAS is going toward to trying to figure that out and cut through that. Japan, our equivalency agreement was agreed to in January, and it's a little early for us to have trade statistics, but we're optimistic that that's a very, very positive development. Switzerland began equivalence discussions last year. They've been slowed due to some audit findings, and as I started out saying, that's kind of a disappointment, but at the end of the day, we need to protect the organic brand because I'm a consumer. I want organic to mean something, and I think there are a lot of consumers around the globe who want organic to mean something, and that's a big part of our job. So I may be the trade guy, but I also want to make sure we get it done right, and that's what Ann and Miles are all about. Quickly here, let's see. The programs that I manage are, I'll get you into the mosh pit of acronyms. We've got MAP, FMD, EMP, TASK. All of those are different cost share programs we work with. I would just say that Organic Trade Association, the organic industry, I think has fared pretty well. We're trying to move the needle to recognize the evolution in American agriculture so that we can promote things and make some progress. So I think we've come a long ways on that. Part of the reason that's appealing to me, I know we've got organic participants all across line from huge industries to small industries, and it takes everybody to get the job done. But particularly where organic is concerned, I think it's got a preponderance of small and medium enterprises. About 6,500 member growers, processors, shippers, and retailers. Of those 6,500, 85% are small businesses, and they create about 160,000 jobs. And so that's something that's always at the tip of our tongue. I'll breeze through a couple trade programs that we're going through right now. Transatlantic Trade Investment Partnership is the hot item. I was just on George Mason's campus in Arlington this morning. We're in the 5th round of negotiations on that. There's a lot to work on there. I think we're still exploring, making sure everybody understands where we have differences. The reason this is important is because the EU represents 23% of the world's GDP. In recent years, our agricultural exports have not kept pace with other increases in trade, and so it's incumbent upon us to push, as the President has said, for a comprehensive 21st century agreement that takes into account all these things. So we want to make sure that agriculture is treated and that we lean into those negotiations very hard to get them done right, and that agriculture stays a part of the conversation. Everybody here knows that equivalence is sort of the key to access, and finding ways to reduce tariffs is how you help build markets. Our tariffs in the EU, Chile already has duty-free access, but for U.S. products, dairy products, including cheese and milk powders, have a 60% tariff. Beef has an over 100% tariff. Wine, 23%. Processed foods, 25%. Prunes, 9.6%. Dried cranberries, 17%. Strawberries, 17%. Rice, 5%. So even though we have equivalence, we've got to get through some tariff issues where our European pals are concerned. On TPP, those conversations, as I mentioned, are a little further along. Darcy's on our way back. The TPP countries represent 39% of the world's GDP. Again, another good reason to pay attention to that market and to push for not only equivalence, to gain access, but tariff reduction to achieve increased sales and opportunity. Chile has proposed an annex on TPP. We're working through that right now to try to accomplish all the things I articulated before, make sure we have a framework in place that protects the integrity of our organic brand, but it creates opportunity as well. So I'm going to truncate the rest of my remarks because I know I've already talked 15 minutes. Later today, you're going to get another dose. I think Miles and Kelly are talking later on. Brandon's going to be here to talk about crop insurance. Ann is around too, so you can have more USDA time then. My only parting comment, and I think one of the first times I went to a big trade show was in Baltimore not long ago, the Natural Foods Expo. And the first group I ran into there was a group of Korean importers. And they were all around me. They're saying, "Oh, Mr. Karsting, you're the FAS minister. You got to get our government to change." And I'm like, it's your government. But I realize they operate in a world where they can't sometimes stick their head out of the sand as easily as we can in America. And so it just kind of reaffirms to me why I'm grateful for the relationship we have with OTA and organic producers, because we can have those conversations and it can go back and forth. And so I want that to continue. We have to balance a lot of different things in this world of public policy, but it's hugely important for us to be able to have those conversations so you don't have to go overseas and say, "Please make my government do something." So anyway, I'm glad to be with you all today, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to take questions as we stand around and talk during the break.